You know, I was actually going to sing the theme song for the opening of this review, but I decided not to. Anyway, Firefly was a live-action space western drama TV series that premiered on Fox in 2002 and was created by Joss Whedon, of Buffy the Vampire Slayer fame. It was well known for being one of the most infamous shows that was canceled too soon, as it was canceled on Fox after only showing 11 of the 14 episodes made. The remaining episodes can be shown on the DVD release of the show. But despite the show's untimely cancellation, Firefly managed to spawn a movie called Serenity that continued the events from the TV series, while also continuing its run through the comic books. It also won an Emmy in 2003 for Outstanding Special Visual Effects for a series, and it ranked number 5 on TV Guide's 2013 list of 60 shows that were canceled too soon. Now, before I get into what I liked and hated about the show, I would like to give out a brief summary of the show. Firefly basically started off with Mal and Zoe fighting in the Battle of Serenity Valley, which was a war between the Alliance and the Independents. Unfortunately, the Independents ended up losing the war, and the Alliance, which consisted of the two surviving superpowers, the United States and China, ended up ruling over the core planets and unified all of the colonies under one government. However, even though the Independents lost the war, Malcolm Mal Reynolds and Zoe Washburn, who are now known as the Browncoats, continued to live their lives outside of the Alliance. In this new life, they are crew members of the Firefly-shaped spaceship Serenity, where Mal is the captain of the crew and Zoe Washburn is his second-in-command. Accompanying Mal and Zoe in this crew are Hoban Washburn, Serenity's pilot and Zoe Washburn's husband, and Nora Sarah, who is a companion and the love interest of Mal, Jane Cobb, a hired gun, Kaylee, who is the ship's mechanic, Dr. Simon Tam, a medical researcher and trauma surgeon, River Tam, Simon's unstable sister, who was experimented on by the Alliance, and Shepard Book, who is a preacher who has a dark and hidden past. Now, I have an awkward history with Joss Whedon's works in television since I didn't really start getting into his work up until I was in college, which is pretty late in the game for me. I would like to explain more about how Astonishing X-Men was my introduction into Joss Whedon's work and how I eventually got into Joss Whedon's other works like Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel. But this review is focused on Joss Whedon's other well-known TV series, Firefly, and I wanted to focus on my attention on this show. Besides, I could talk more about Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel once I start doing my reviews on those shows. When I first heard about Firefly, which was years after its cancellation, I was a bit hesitant about watching this show, since I don't normally watch sci-fi TV shows, with the exception of Star Trek The Next Generation. But after I finally got the DVD for this series, I was totally hooked on the premise and the characters involved in this show. I really enjoyed the premise of the show, as it was basically a Western series that takes place in space, which is not to say that this was the first TV series to try this approach. Brave Star, anyone? But in this case, having a space western drama TV series premiere in the early 2000s was quite a refreshing idea, and this series did a fantastic job at entertaining the audience with its memorable characters and exciting premise. As stated by Joss Whedon when he came up with the premise for the show, he wanted to do a show where everything takes place in the future, but nothing has changed, as people would still be exploring the same political, moral, and ethical problems of today's world. I like that premise as it helps make the characters even more relatable to the audience, even though the show is set into the future. I also love the idea about how the only superpowers existing in this world are China and the United States, and we were able to see a perfect blend of these two cultures into that universe. It really gives the show a more creative vibe in regards to what would happen if only two superpowers in the world had survived, and how much change the culture we recognize now would endure if that happened. I also enjoy seeing the various spaceships that the characters drive, especially Serenity, the spaceship flown by the main cast, as it looks like a giant firefly, hence the show's title. Now on to the best parts of the show, and that's the characters themselves. Each character in the series was done so well that I found myself really sympathizing with their efforts, especially with the two main characters, Mal and Zoe, trying to make it in this new culture after they lost the Battle of Serenity Valley that would determine their place in society. I love the character of Malcolm Mal Reynolds, who is played by Nathan Fillion, as he is the leader of the Serenity crew, and the fact that he is one of the Browncoats who tried to defend the independence during the Battle of Serenity Valley, really brought so much emotion to his backstory. I also loved his leadership skills in protecting the crew of Serenity, as he is shown to be so calculated in his plans in defeating an enemy that you would seriously be shocked at how he is able to come up with such elaborate plans while he is stuck in a difficult situation. Jane Cobb, who is played by Adam Baldwin, was another character that I grew to love over time, as he is shown to be the lummox of the group, but he has surprising depth to his character. I like the fact that he seems to sort of pretend to be dumb, but you could tell there's so much more to his character, such as his loyalty to Mal, and the fact that he's always gives his mother some of his money, which I think is very heartwarming. Kaylee Fry, who is played by Jewel State, is probably one of the sweetest characters I have ever seen created in a Joss Whedon show, as she is the heart of the crew, and her everlasting optimistic personality literally lightens up anyone's day. I also love Kaylee's relationship with the ship Serenity, as she is the ship's mechanic, and she seems to be one of the few people in the crew who really understands what Serenity needs. Actually, the ship Serenity is often considered a part of the cast, which I found to be very unique for the show. Shepard Book, who is played by Ron Glass, was probably one of the most mysterious and intriguing characters I had ever seen on this show, as he is shown as being a devout Christian, but you can easily tell that he has a dark past behind him that you're just wondering what it's all about. Well, his dark past was eventually revealed in the comic book A Shepherd's Tale. I love the fact that Shepard Book is usually the voice of reason for the team, and it was interesting seeing him interact with the other members, especially Mal. But probably my most favorite character in this entire series would have to be River Tam, who is played by Summer Glau. What was the most interesting thing about River Tam is the fact that she is portrayed as being a broken and psychotic girl who was forced to go through experiments done to her by the Alliance. And the most heartbreaking thing about all this was that River used to be an intelligent and compassionate child prodigy, which really said so much about the evils of the Alliance. I will admit that out of all of the main characters, River Tam had to be the most intense and mysterious character in the show, as she easily creates so much tension, and at times terror for the crew of Serenity, since you never know when she would snap due to her mental instability. Zoe and Wash's relationship with each other was really inspiring for me, since they are completely different from each other, and yet they truly love each other. Zoe Washburn, who is played by Gina Torres, is shown to be the strong second in command to Mal, and it was great seeing her take down enemies that mean the team harm. Washburn, who is played by Alan Tudyk, is the team's comic relief, and I really loved his relationship with Zoe, as it shows a heartwarming side to his character. Dr. Simon Tam, who is played by Sean Maher, is a truly inspiring character as he's the team medic, and I love the fact that he's devoted most of his life in trying to protect River, even though I would like to see his relationship with Kaylee progress further. Inara Sarah, who is played by Marina Barkerin, is another character I surprisingly love, as she is the hooker with the heart of gold, and I love her motherly nature towards most of the crew. I also enjoy her love and hate relationship with Mal, as I do wonder whether or not they will admit to each other that they care about each other. Now, I will talk about what I hated about this show, or more to the point, hating the fact that this show got canceled so soon. Seriously, Fox? What were you thinking when you canceled a show that had so much potential to be one of the most memorable TV shows since Buffy the Vampire Slayer? This show was so creative and the characters were so well developed, and for a show that only ran for 14 episodes, that's saying something. That I wonder why a show like this was even canceled in the first place. Oh well, at least we have the movie Serenity and the comic books to wrap up the loose ends left from the show. Even though as a huge fan of the show, I can't help but feel a little disappointed that we would never see how these scenes from the comic books and the movie played out in the TV series. Overall, I'm giving Firefly a thumbs up. This was a truly creative, intense, and heartwarming series that I believe was one of Joss Whedon's best works. And while I'm upset that the show was canceled too soon, I'm glad that it has a fan base that's dedicated to making the show continue through the comic books and the movie Serenity. And I hope that the comic books will continue to make stories about this fantastic series, or I hope that this series will be revived on TV someday, if possible. Well, that's my TV show review on Firefly, and be sure to check out more of my videos in the near future. I'm Rabbitearsblog, and I'll see you later.